Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for some breaking news and some very worrying news. Could the Springboks be forced to play under a neutral flag in the quarterfinals? Yes, you heard that correctly. There has been a story that has come out, and a very worrying story, and a very typical South African story, really, the more you read into it, which calls for concern. We sort of wait to find out exactly what the exact situation is, but basically, due to a non-compliance with the World Anti-Doping Code, the Springboks could be forced to compete under a neutral flag in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, which would mean not singing the national anthem, for example. So it's a bit of a stuff up, isn't it? And yeah, the story came out earlier, and I'm just going to talk you through the article and sort of talk about exactly what is going on and what the story is and where this article came from. But before I do, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so this article came from Rugby 365, was published earlier or late last night, and basically talks about the fact that the Springboks, as a result of the South African national anti-doping organizations being non-compliant, could be forced to play under a neutral flag and not sing the national anthem, basically not representing South Africa, but like Russian athletes did at the last Olympics. And we're going to go through exactly what the situation is over here. Okay, so basically, the South African government needs to comply by the 13th of October with the new anti-doping regulations as set out by Wada, which is the World Anti-Doping Code. So it says over here, it says, if the South African government does not comply by October the 13th, the first steps of the consequences of non-compliance will start. And one of those consequences is not being allowed to participate under a national flag. The non-compliance by the South African National Anti-Doping Organizations, NATO, is a result of legislation not in line with the 2021 code. On September 23rd this year, Wada announced in a statement that South Africa has fallen foul of Wada's mandatory compliance requirements and will face the dire consequences. The notice of non-compliance can be read here. So it's a whole yeah, which I'll put in the description if you guys would like to go and sort of read the minutes of the meeting, basically. Basically, it says the code is a global policy that is agreed and adopted by both sports movement and governments from around the world. Unfortunately, the South African government has failed to amend its outdated Drug-Free Sport Act to comply with the latest World Anti-Doping Code that came into force in 2021. I mean, doesn't that just sound like South Africa? You know, the fact that we are 2 years later after this and we're still not complying, and all of a sudden we're going to have major sanctions as a result of inefficiencies. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? It says that the new revised anti-doping code came into effect on the 1st of January 2021, and all its member countries must comply. And that is for all sports federations, by the way, the Olympics, the cricket, the rugby. So this is not just the Springboks that will be affected by this, just by the way. Apparently, there are only 2 sporting bodies and federations out of 700 that have not accepted the code. South Africa and Bermuda. So we know really I'm holding some good company here. It says over here, Wada wishes to update stakeholders regarding the Executive Committee's decision to endorse 10 recommendations of Wada's Independent Compliance Review Committee, the statement read. During its meeting, the EXCO asserted non-compliance of 3 anti-doping organizations with the World Anti-Doping Code. The 2 national anti-doping organizations in question are Bermuda and South Africa, and the major event organization in question is the Pan American Sports Organization and Pan Am Sports. In the case of Bermuda and the South African national anti-doping agencies, the non-compliance is a result of legislation not in line with 2021. It then references an article from the Daily Maverick, which says that the South African Institute for Drug-Free Sport, SAIDS, had warned the government and the federations previously of the consequences of non-compliance a year ago. The first formal meeting with sports federations and the South African Sports and Olympic Committee, SASCOC, took place in Johannesburg on the 25th of November 2022. According to the Daily Maverick, a draft bill had been sent out in April 2023 by SAIDS to all federations and SASCOC outlining the compliance regulations. They had until 5th of May for comments and amendments. After that deadline, SAIDS reviewed comments and inputs and made the changes where appropriate. On the 22nd of September, a statement by Sports Minister Zizi Kodwa read as follows. I have noted the decision by the Wada on Friday, 23rd of September. The current South African legislation, the South African Drug-Free Sport Amendment Act 25 2006, is not compliant with the World Anti-Doping Code. He said, "We have worked tirelessly to amend legislation as recommended by Wada. There has also been input by Wada in working with us to draft SAID's amendment bill, which will now be taken through the South African constitutional process of finalising a bill. It is disappointing that South Africa has been found to be non-compliant despite this undertaking to pass legislation which meets the World Anti-Doping Code. I would like to reassure athletes, sports federations, and the sports public that the non-compliance finding will not affect drug testing in South African sport. SAIDS will continue to deliver services that can protect clean sport in South Africa." He then says that the South African government process for promulgating legislation is thorough and comprehensive. Any legislation, including amendments, must meet the muster of the South African Constitution and cannot contradict or nullify any existing laws. I officially communicated with WADA President Witol Vanko on South Africa's position and have requested to meet with him urgently. South Africa is committed to anti-doping sport. SAIDS has done so much work to meet the evolving dynamics of compliance in global sport on matters of anti-doping, anti-corruption, governance reforms, child safeguarding, and data protection. The Department of Sports, Culture and Culture will continue to expand all efforts to get the amendment bill adopted expeditiously. South Africa is compelled to comply as a signatory of the International Convention Against Doping in Sport, adopted by the General Conference of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization in Paris on October the 19th, 2005. So Daily Maverick originally, running the story, and then now Rugby 365 sort of adding on to it. In terms of what this means, so in theory, right now, as it stands, this is a very real threat. They could have it within them to basically to force the Springboks to plan a neutral flag, to basically say that they're not representing South Africa because South Africa are no longer compliant. Will this happen? You kind of feel it's unlikely. I think it is one of those threats where, you're going to go and make the ultimate threat to be able to force compliance and to force people to act. And the biggest thing is, I think, a brand like the Springboks, that's how you get government to jump. That's how you get various, bodies to really start to act in the best interest of the country, because you're now talking about our most valuable sporting brand on the eve of potentially another, massive making moment if you were to go and win the World Cup, being marred by their inefficiencies. So I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. And that's the main thing. That's what this is all about. And hopefully this is, the media and the build-up and the pressure sort of force a bit of action, and that, ideally, we need to be able to get potentially an extension if that's a thing. We'll be able to work out some sort of understanding that we will bring out our policies into alignment and get this bill signed without it actually affecting any of the athletes. It is very frustrating that this is a thing, especially when you read it and you think that it took them over a year to start to really act, and now it's taken over a year for it to get done. And what should have been a 18-month process and be done by now is lagging behind and could affect other sports teams. Unfortunately, we do see this a lot with our South African sports federations and SASCOC and the South African culture or sports culture and recreation departments. It's an ongoing story, isn't it? It's not the first time we've seen things like this happen. So it gets incredibly frustrating because we've got all the sports talent in the world and we are let down by poor sports administrators. And it really needs to stop. So that is the current situation. We will update you whenever we hear any latest information and whether this will actually become a thing or not. What do you think of the entire situation? Down in the comments below. Let me know. And smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We will have all the latest updates as we hear them right here on Forever Sports. So make sure you are part of the channel. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.